Today we're going to be looking at a pretty rare and obscure Plants vs. Zombies plush set that not a lot of people know about. Most of the plushes that are in this set are pretty rare and not a lot of people own them. So with that said, welcome to a look at the Lissidoll Plants vs. Zombies plush set. Starting off with the first plush in this set, we have the Sunflower. Now the Sunflower plush in this set looks very similar to the Lynx and Sunflower. And the reason for that is that this Sunflower plush is basically an exact copy of the Lynx plush except for the leaf base being slightly different. As well, for some reason they messed up the leaf base and put really big dimples in it, which obviously aren't supposed to be there. They might have based this plush off of the limited edition Sunflower because it does have dimples there, but not this big. The leaf base is overall just too small for this plush, and it should have been a bigger size if it wanted to look more accurate to the actual Lynx or limited edition Sunflower plush. But besides that, the rest of the plush basically looks the exact same, with having the same problems with the stem potentially getting understuffed over the years. The Sunflower's face basically is the exact same color and has the exact same embroidery on it. The petals, just like the normal Lynx and Sunflower, could get damaged because they're made out of a pretty delicate material and they could get pretty bent. Besides the leaf base on this plush, most details on this plush are overall pretty high quality and they overall look pretty nice. For a bootleg Sunflower plush, they actually did a really good job with it besides the leaf base, but I would actually say this is one of the better plushes in the set in terms of quality. But yeah, if you want this plush, you can look on eBay and Mercari, but it will be pretty hard to find. Now let's move on to the next plush in the set, being the Peashooter. Now the Peashooter uses the exact same leaf base as the Sunflower, except this Peashooter's leaf base is actually slightly bigger than the Sunflower plush. You could just tell by the images of it that the leaf base is actually the more correct size. It's really not as big as it's supposed to be, but it's still slightly bigger than the Sunflower plushes. But it actually seems to be a bit overstuffed, and the dimples are kind of like really stuffed looking, so yeah, it seems like they kind of overstuffed on the leaf base there, making it look really thick and not that big. But yeah, the stem has the same problem as the Sunflower, being able to get understuffed, and it has the correct ring around the neck, which overall looks fine. The shape of the head is pretty accurate and it looks pretty good, except the front of the head is a bit small. As well, the part of the Peashooter where the peas come out of are actually slightly smaller than it's supposed to be. The Peashooter's eyes are nicely embroidered on and they look very similar to the Lynx and Peashooters, except they just seem to be too far apart. The leaf on the back of the head for the Peashooter is the exact same as the Lynx and plush. So yeah, just like the Sunflower plush, it seems to that this plush was based off of either the limited edition Peashooter or the Lynx and Peashooter. Either way, there's a few inaccuracies on this plush that makes it a lot worse than the others, such as the front of the face not being correctly shaped, and also the eyes are pretty far apart. But yeah, this is definitely not the best Peashooter plush out there, and I would definitely recommend getting the Lynx and plush instead because it's a lot higher quality and it's also a lot more common. As well, just like the Sunflower, you could look on eBay and Mercari, but it's very hard to find and you probably won't be able to find it easily. Moving on to the next plush, we have the Walnut. Now one thing that's weird about this plush is that the face on it seems to be in different spots mattering on which plush you get. As well, sometimes the face could be in the correct place, but also sometimes it could be lower down. This is probably due to poor quality control on these plushes because they're probably just mass produced to make as much money as possible because they're bootlegs. But yeah, the face on this plush is nicely embroidered on and most of the time looks accurate, except on some plushes it could be a little further down due to quality control, which makes it look worse and also inaccurate. But yeah, the eyes have felt in the middle of them, so yeah, it could get actually damaged, and the pupil's made out of some normal embroidery material. The Walnut is correctly shaped and seems to be the exact same as the Lynx in shape, as well as a very simplistic plush to make. As well, all they did is take the Lynx in design and just made it look the exact same basically, as well as a really easy plush to copy. It just seems that sometimes they didn't make the plush correctly due to poor quality control, but besides that, if you get a good looking Lissidoll Walnut plush, it basically looks the exact same as the Lynx one besides the tags. There isn't really much to say about this plush, but if you want it, you can look on eBay and Mercari, but once again, you probably won't be able to find it. Moving on, we have the Sunroom. Now the Sunroom is basically an exact copy of the Lynx and Sunroom, except there's a few subtle differences. First off, the amount of dots and the size of the dots on top of the Sunroom's head is actually slightly more than there is on the normal Lynx and Sunroom plush. As well, if you look at an image of it, you can see that there's actually a ton of dots on the Sunroom's head, while on the Lynx and plush there's actually less of them. And they also seem to be a slightly different shade of color than the Lynx and plush, but just by like one little bit. The head overall seems to be pretty nicely shaped and is overall really nicely stuffed, so it holds up pretty well. Same thing with the face. The face is nicely stuffed, and also the embroidery on it looks really nice. The only thing that's slightly weird about the face is that for some reason the eyes are kind of angled. As of on the Lynx and plush, they're actually more like kind of centered in the middle of the face, while in this plush they're slightly uncentered. So yeah, they're definitely not the exact same as the Sunroom, but that's just a subtle difference that I noticed. Besides that, there's no really other differences about this plush, and in my opinion, they did a pretty good job copying the Lynx and plush. Unless if you look really closely at this plush, besides the poor quality of it, it basically looks the exact same from the distance as the normal Lynx and Sunroom. If you want, this plush is a lot rarer than the normal Lynx and Sunroom, and you can look on eBay and Mercari, but it's extremely rare. Moving on to the next plush, we have the Fum Shroom. Now, just like the Sunroom plush, there's only a few subtle differences about it. First off, just like the Sunroom, there's just slightly more dots on the head of the Fum Shroom plush on the Lissidoll version than the Lynxen version. But besides that, basically every detail on the head is pretty good except for the shooter being just slightly too small. Just kind of like the front of the Peashooter's head where the P's come out of, they just kind of made it slightly too small and it looks pretty inaccurate. The head is actually pretty nicely stuffed, so it holds up pretty well over the years. The face is also nicely stuffed, and the embroidery is practically the exact same as the Lynxen plush, and I can't really notice any differences about them. And it seems to actually be a one-to-one copy on the face. There might be one very subtle difference on the face, but it seems to be basically the exact same pattern as the Lynxen plush. But yeah, once again, just like the Sunroom plush, unless if you really looked at this plush carefully and noticed a few differences about it from the Lynxen plush, besides the poor quality of it, it basically looks the exact same. And one thing that kind of differentiates these plush from the others is that the quality on it is just not the best. All these plushes were just cheaply made and very much mass produced just so they can make a ton of money at once while the game was at its peak. And that's why a lot of these bootleg companies' plushes just fall apart really easily. But yeah, if you want this plush, you can look on eBay and Mercari, and I actually saw one sell on eBay only like 4 months ago, so it's definitely not impossible to find, it'll just take a while. Moving on, we have the Squash plush. Now this is one of the worst plush in the set in my opinion, just because it's lacking a lot of details that the Squash needs. By far the most noticeable part about the Squash plush's inaccuracies is that it doesn't have any definition on it, and the entire Squash plush is just kind of smooth. As you know, the Squash plush actually has a bit of definition to it, with slightly more stuff on the bottom and less stuff at the top to give it more shape. But this plush doesn't really have that, and it overall makes it look pretty weird looking. Usually on Lynx and Squash plush, there's also a few bumps at the bottom of it just to give it a bit more detail, but this plush is also missing that. So yeah, it seems a lot of the cool details on the Squash plush that just made it look a bit more realistic, it doesn't actually have on this plush. The embroidery on the face seems to be pretty low quality, and for some reason the mouth just seems to be very thickly embroidered on. For some reason the mouth is just a lot bigger than the rest of the embroidery on the face. I don't know really why they did that, or even if they did that on purpose. The eyes on this plush just also seem to be off, so yeah, they just didn't really do that good of a job on the Squash plush. The stem looks pretty accurate, it's literally the easiest part of the entire plush, but besides that, every other part about this plush is inaccurate. In my opinion, this probably has to be one of the worst plush in the set just due to its inaccuracies on it. If you want this plush, you could look on eBay, as I saw one sell a few months ago, just like the Fum Shroom. Next up, we have the Jalapeno plush. Now, just like the Squash, this probably has to be one of the worst plush in the entire set. The reason for this is that there's just a ton of inaccuracies on this plush, especially on the Jalapeno's face. The embroidery on the face just looks really bad. They just made the mouth too small and didn't embroider it on correctly, and the same thing with the eyes. It's kind of hard to explain what's specifically wrong with this plush's face. You could just obviously tell that there's just something off about it. The shape of the Jalapeno also looks pretty weird, as it's just kind of skinny at the top and also skinny at the bottom, while it's supposed to be wider at the top, just like the Lynx and Jalapeno plush. The Jalapeno also just seems to be a bit too big, as the lily pad just seems to be really small compared to it. Basically every single detail on this Jalapeno plush is just inaccurate, just like the Squash plush. In my opinion, this plush is probably even worse than the Squash plush, because this one actually has no details that make any sense on it, they just look all inaccurate, while the Squash plush's embroidery on the face at least looks somewhat like it's supposed to be. But yeah, if you want this plush, you can look on eBay and Mercari, and I haven't seen it for sale at all recently. Next up, we have the Kernel P. Now this is a copy of the Lynx's textureless Kernel P plush. And with all the details on this plush besides the embroidery on the face look the exact same as the Lynxin plush. Because well, just like other plushes in the set, the embroidery on the face just seems to be a bit too big. As well, the eyebrows just seem to be a bit too wide for some reason. The eyes also seem to be a bit too wide, especially with the pupils. But besides that, there's no really other noticeable details on this plush that make it look like a bootleg besides the low quality of it. As well, all the leaves on the side of the Kernel P look really accurate, and the textureless Kernel P uses the exact same plush material used on this plush, so yeah, it basically looks the exact same besides the embroidery. But yeah, there's only really one detail on this plush that's inaccurate, being the embroidery, and the rest of it overall looks pretty good. And if you want it, look on eBay. Next up is the Melon P plush. Now the leaf base on this plush is the exact same as the Peashooter and Sunflower's leaf base. As well, it seems it's the exact same size and also has the exact same dimples in the leaf base, so yeah, it basically is the exact same color as well. And for the Melon P head, it overall seems to be pretty accurate. As well, the melon itself overall seems to be pretty good, and it has some nice iron-on it that could actually fall apart pretty easily though. As well, the iron-on material in mint condition actually looks extremely accurate, except for it just being a little too small. But yeah, since this plush was pretty cheaply made, so was the iron-on, so yeah, it could fall apart pretty easily. But in mint condition, it actually looks pretty good. You know, the stem on the right side of this plush coming off the Melon P is basically the exact same as the normal stem used on the Lynxin plush, except just a little lower quality. And just like the Lynxin plush, it could get unraveled over the years and get pretty damaged. And by far the most noticeable part about this plush that's different from the Lynxin plush is that the eyes are just way too big. As well, just like the Kernel P plush, it seems that they just made the embroidery a bit too wide. So yeah, it's by far the most noticeable detail about this plush that's different than the original Melon P plush, and it seems that most plushes in the set actually have the exact same embroidery issue. But yeah, it does give it a bit more of a distinct look, and I actually like it a lot. As well, it makes the plush a bit more unique than just another Lynxin copy, so yeah, its overall looks pretty good in my opinion as well, but gives it a bit more uniqueness. But yeah, if you want this plush, you can look on eBay, and I haven't seen one for sale in like a year. Next up, we have the Magnet Shroom. Now this is the copy of the first design of the limited edition Magnet Shroom. And well, the magnet part of the plush overall looks really good, and it actually looks basically the exact same as the limited edition plush. As well, the magnet uses the exact same colors and basically uses the exact same materials as used on the limited edition Magnet Shroom. The eyes also look the exact same, and same thing with the eyebrows as well. They're kind of tilted over the eyes to look the exact same as the limited edition plush. Yeah, they overall did a really good job making that copy of it. As well, the Magnet Shroom's face is basically a perfect copy of the limited edition plush, and the only thing that looks inaccurate about this plush is the stem on it. And well, the only really thing that looks inaccurate about this plush is that the stem is just slightly discolored. As well, the stem and the mushrooms on the side of them just seem to be a bit inaccurate as well. They're just a light purplish color and also a light green color. You know, that's actually the only inaccuracy about this entire plush, as well the rest of it is basically perfect. You know, but if they didn't mess up that one detail on the stem, it would have been basically a perfect copy of the plush. You know, the only really other difference about this plush compared to the rest of the set is that it's actually a really big plush. As well, it seems that they made this plush really big for some reason, and even a lot bigger than the limited edition Magnet Shroom, so that's another thing that gives it away that it's a bootleg. You know, but if you want this plush, I actually saw one for sale on eBay not too long ago, only a few months ago, so yeah, it's definitely possible to get, and there's actually a few more documented owners of this plush compared to the rest of the set, so yeah, you probably have a better chance of finding this one than most in the set. Moving on, we have the Apple Bomb. Now, the Apple Bomb uses the exact same leaf base as the Peashooter and Sunflower plushes, and it also uses the exact same stem as the Sunflower. So yeah, all these details on this plush are just reused, and the stem could actually get understuffed over the years just like the other plushes. You know, the face on the Apple Bomb actually looks pretty weird because the embroidery on this one is actually too thin, which is basically the opposite problem than used on the Kernel P and Melon P plushes, as well the embroidery on those plushes were too big. So yeah, it seems that Lissidoll can never get their embroidery right on these plushes, as well they just somehow always mess it up. But besides that one bad detail on this plush, the rest of it looks pretty good as well. The head on this plush is pretty nicely stuffed, and the stem on the top of it looks accurate. You know, if the embroidery on this plush actually was the correct size, it would actually basically look the exact same as the normal Lynxin Apple Bomb besides the leaf base. But yeah, this is probably one of the rarest plushes in the whole set as well, but I was only able to find a few images of it, and well, it just seems to be extremely rare as well, but I don't know anyone that owns it. Moving on to the zombies, we have the basic zombie. Now, the basic zombie's face is by far the most different thing about this plush than any other zombie plush. As well, the embroidery on the face just gives it a very distinct look compared to any other company's zombie plush. As well, around the eyes, the embroidery is just way too thick and it kind of makes the plush look really weird. As well, they made the embroidery on the outside of the eyes just way too big, but they made the pupils normal size, so yeah, if the outside embroidery was actually a normal size, I think it would have been a pretty good looking plush, and it would actually look a lot closer to the Lynxon plush. And well, same thing with the wrinkles on the forehead, I just think that they made them too big, as well sometimes they actually go onto the eyebrows. And since the embroidery on this plush is just a bit thicker, it makes the face just look a lot more squished together with most details. But yeah, the mouth on this plush basically uses the exact same pattern as the Lynxon plush, and well, it looks pretty good. I can't really see there's any inaccuracies about the mouth on this plush, and it looks pretty good in my opinion. It's just that the eyes that kind of ruin the entire face and gives it a really strange look. And well, interestingly, the tie is actually made out of a felt material instead of just being ironed onto the plush. And I actually like that this plush makes it a more unique look on the tie as well, but I actually like the tie being a separate piece of material than just being ironed on like basically every other zombie plush. The clothes on this plush are basically the exact same as the normal Lynxon plush, just a bit lower quality. And this basic zombie plush is also missing the stitching on his hands to make his hands have fingers. But yeah, this plush also seems to have a lack of stuffing in the body for some reason. It just seems that the plush is kind of understuffed. Which is pretty weird because there's basically no other plushes in the set besides the zombies that are understuffed. But yeah, the zombie definitely has its own unique look to it, which makes it a bit more unique than just being another copy of a Lynxon plush. So yeah, I do give it good credit for that. And well, I've actually seen this plush for sale a few times recently, and well, it's probably one of the most common in the entire set. And if you want it, you can look on eBay. Next up, we have the hypnotized zombie. Now, I don't really have a lot to say about this plush as it's the exact same as the normal zombie. As well, the pattern is literally the exact same, and the only difference is that it's purple. So yeah, instead of the entire body being gray, it's just a purple color, and well, same thing with the coat, it's just a dark purple color. And well, it uses the exact same pattern as the normal basic zombie plush as well, there was no really real reason to change it. And well, just like the basic zombie, it definitely has its own unique look to it on the face. The only other detail that they changed about this plush is that the eyebrows are just a purple color instead of being a gray color. But yeah, I do have to give this plush credit for just looking a lot more unique than basically any other hypnotized zombie plush due to the face. Unlike the basic zombie plush, that's probably the easiest plush to get in the entire set, this one's extremely rare and I haven't seen any listings of it recently. But if you want it, you can look on eBay, but you have a very low chance of finding it and a much higher chance of finding the normal basic zombie. But yeah, comment down below which plush in it says your favorite, and if you enjoyed this video then please like and subscribe, and yeah, have a great day.